Welcome to the Body and Beyond podcast with Alice and Gina.
A podcast sparking discussion on all things health, mindset, fitness, goals, and motivation.
We strive to help you to boost your confidence, to take the lead in your own life, to back yourself, and to step into your full potential. Body and Beyond is proudly sponsored by The Seed Cycle. The Seed Cycle is a beautiful female-founded Australian company. Seed cycling is a natural methodology that you can use to support your menstruation and your ovulation, and it can even be used to support your hormones through perimenopause and menopause. Use the code BODYANDBEYOND at the Seed Cycle website www.theseedcycle.com.au. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Body and Beyond podcast. I'm Gina, and Alice is here as well, and we have a very special guest, Mel Kovacevic. Welcome, Mel, from Functional Health Canberra.
Hello, thanks for having me on again. I'm very excited.
Back. Yeah,
I've been listening to every single episode, and I'm loving it. You guys are so entertaining, and it's like you've been doing it for years.
Oh, thank you. No, we're definitely we're definitely working through, fumbling through our podcasting journey. Yeah. We loved having you on last time talking about seed cycling, Mel, and today we would love to learn from you all about tapping or emotional freedom technique, EFT. So where would you like to start?
Well, I can explain what it is, because a lot of people don't know. Or they may have seen, yeah, exactly. They may have seen bits and pieces. And honestly, when I came across it and started using it, I didn't know much about it. I just knew that I tried it and it helped. And then becoming a practitioner, obviously learned so much more about it. But basically, EFT, like you said, stands for emotional freedom techniques, and it's similar to acupuncture, where we're using different acupressure points on our face and our body, but instead of using needles, we're tapping with our fingers. And so it might all sound a bit woo-woo, but the really cool thing about EFT and clinical EFT, which is what I practice, is that there's so much science behind it now that it's considered an evidence-based practice. It's used by some of the world's leading trauma experts. I haven't watched the documentary, but apparently Prince Harry recently said that it was one of the only things that helped him when he was going through anxiety. Such a cool endorsement. What I really love about it is that it's something that you can do yourself. So absolutely, you can work with a practitioner, and it's kind of similar to, not that I know much about PT, but I use that analogy with people. It's like working with a PT. If you want to do some heavy lifting, if you've got some heavy stuff to work through, working with a certified practitioner is great, but absolutely it's something you can do on your own. We know now with some of those clinical studies that it reduces cortisol by 42%, they said last time, which is huge. And it has an impact on heart rate, on also basically resetting your nervous system, and you feel that when you're tapping through the points. So it's really easy practice to learn, and I'd love to show you guys today, and we can do a bit of a demo, because the best way is kind of just to experience it and give it a go yourself.
That would be great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So Mel, what brought you to tapping in the first place, or what's your experience with tapping?
Yeah, so what happened was, it was probably almost 10 years ago. I was listening to a podcast, and there was someone talking about tapping and how she had completely healed herself of her eating disorder within a really short amount of time with tapping. And at the time I was really struggling with my own issues with food, so my ears kind of perked up, and I was like, oh, what is this? And I basically just Googled it. I came across the Tapping Solution website, has a couple of instructions there, and I started to use it. And for years it was just my little secret, and it helped with so many different things, from the cravings to if I was feeling stressed, to if I was feeling frustrated, if I had a headache. It was just something that it was just my little thing that I would do whenever, I needed to. And it was actually, I was in labor with my daughter, and I was in labor for a really long time. I was in a lot of pain, lots of fear, and I started tapping, and it helped. And which is incredible because, like I had the birth plan, I had the TENS machine, I had everything, but tapping was the thing that really got me through that transition. And later my husband said to me, "What were you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. It's just this weird tapping thing that I do." And he said, "Oh, well, it looked like it really helped." And I guess that acknowledgement from him really then gave me the confidence to go, yeah, and it really does help me, and it's helped me for a long time. And I really never never spoken about it before. And not long after that, I went down the route of looking at looking into it, and then I found out that you can become a practitioner. So I went down the practitioner route, and that was a long 2-year process. There's a lot in there, lots of supervision. You get trauma trained and that sort of thing. So that was great. And I've been a practitioner ever since. Loved it.
And I know you've just briefly mentioned some of the benefits, but in what are some of the things that people will come to you to try and achieve through tapping?
I work with a lot of people on their relationship with food, and so I have a program called Real Food Freedom, where I teach people how to do tapping on their own. It works so well for cravings and to get to the root cause. Because it's not about the food. what's underlying, what's causing the emotional eating, or what's causing the weight gain. So I work a lot with that, but over the years it's been a lot of different things. I'm working with quite a few kids at the moment. It's just such a great tool for kids to help with anxiety and phobias. I've worked with a lot of professional athletes. My brother is one. So that's really cool when we can apply it to things like injuries and different fears. And ultimately, a lot of the time with a lot of modalities, but with tapping in particular, we're trying to get to the limiting belief, right? Like we're trying to get to the belief that's in the unconscious. So we don't know consciously. And then we're trying to work out where does that come from? Where did I learn this? And usually that happens, then we get to some memories over those formative 0 to 7 years. And so that's clinical EFT that I'm doing one-on-ones, but tapping yourself in the moment, your own tapping, that's where really any time that there is, you're feeling any sort of negative emotion, you can quickly use the tapping yourself to self-regulate. And that's where I think that's how it worked for me for so many years. So that's really important for me as well, as like to teach people how they can do it themselves. So you don't have to go to someone for help all the time, like you can help yourself. Which blew my mind in the beginning when I started using it. I was like, because I think at the time I was going to see a counsellor and kinesiologist, and then I would go, get massages for anxiety relief and that. And it was like, wow, this is something I can do myself. I don't have to organise to go see someone to help me.
It's pretty powerful. Hey, I think that's something Alice and I both support, regardless of what it is. I mean, obviously there's a lot of things you can't do yourself, but I think we want to empower people, especially our clients, to not need us. So whether it's in relation to nutrition or training, really it's about empowering the individual so they can stand on their own feet. And that's something we both believe in. Of course, always seek professional help when necessary, or if you just, if it's something you want to do for yourself. But I think that's really cool as well, what you're saying about tapping, that it's something that someone can access and do anywhere, anytime. Maybe not when they're amongst, maybe you need a little bit of privacy. But
I have a funny story about that. I've told this story so many times, but I was driving to work and my husband must have been driving the other way home or something. And he calls me and says, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Nothing, why?" He's like, "Why are you tapping?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just feeling overwhelmed." He's like, "Well, stop it, everyone can see you."
Where was that? Sorry.
Hilarious.
I was just driving. Like, I think
Oh,
I
you
was
did.
driving to work and he
Right.
was driving the other way, or something, like he was in the other car.
Oh, he could see
Oh my
you.
God, he saw you.
It's like everyone can see you.
But no one else would know, right? Because or you'd look like you're
No.
scratching your head or something. No
Yeah,
one else would
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But no, that's really
Wow.
powerful how
Yeah.
people can obviously learn from a professional and come back when they need that support, but also be able to do it themselves as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And you mentioned your brother before as well. So how tapping can be really powerful when working with athletes.
Yeah, so he actually had an injury, and they said he'd be out for the rest of the season, and he called me for help, and I was like, oh geez, it must be bad if he's calling me for help. And so, and this is, I've done this with had this similar situation with other athletes. And what I've found and what we did with him is we tapped on and we acknowledged all the emotions, because whenever there is a physical injury or pain, there's also an emotional component. So we just wanted to acknowledge and release as much as we could of the emotional side. So, you know, we acknowledge the frustration, the devastation. You know, I've been working for this, you know, for how many years, I've been going so well. The embarrassment, all the, just really acknowledging all the emotions that came up, until it was like we got to the point where it was neutral. So he really felt neutral about the injury, which is crazy, where you can go from like a 10 out of 10 devastated to, yeah, well, it sucks, but it's, you know, it is what it is. And once we were able to really neutralize and acknowledge all those emotions, it gave his body, I guess, more space to heal. And as well as acknowledging some of those beliefs that can come up around, you know, and just the negative kind of energy. So it didn't take long. We worked through all that, and then we did some visualization around sending that healing energy to, it was like his calf. So his calf, and yeah, and plus on top of all the rehab and everything else he was doing, like, I don't want to take credit away from all that.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, so he was able to play in the semi-final and the final. They won, which was amazing. And yeah, it was so great to be able to support him through that, and just see how when you can acknowledge and process some of those emotions, you know, I think the devastation just hit, like when we were like tapping on the devastation, it was like, whoa. And then, you know, the fear and all that. Yeah, so incredible.
And for a bit of context, how would you describe like the level of soccer he's playing? Like, it's pretty high up, isn't it?
Yeah, so he's in the A-League. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So as high as you can get.
You can see that's his career. That's his identity. That's his,
exactly.
you know, so you can see how that devastation and that how he'd feel quite helpless, not being able to do what he does.
Yeah.
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 Fear of missing out, you know, I'm not going to be part of it. There are so many components, and just being able to bring them all to the surface and acknowledge them. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because you do hear a lot of, you know, devastating circumstances where athletes, you know, go through these things, and you don't often hear about dealing with the emotional side of it. You know, you hear about the rehab and the physical side of getting better and coping with it, but you don't often hear about what people are doing for coping with the emotional side. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's relatable to anyone, right? Like even an everyday person who injures themselves in the gym, and how the effect that can have on them mentally as well, right? If they can't do what they love doing, or play with their family, you know, be involved in life the way they want to be involved. If they've had to take a step back, the mindset side of it's really important.
Yeah. And I think being able to do things to give your body the greatest chance and opportunity to heal, it's smart, right?
Yeah. And so like, there might be some people listening who might think it sounds a bit woo-woo so far.
Mm.
How would you explain like the flow through? So you mentioned like bringing acceptance and recognizing emotions. Like if we were to kind of break down the process, how would you kind of break it into segments of like rationally or theoretically what is covered?
Yeah. So the first step is acknowledge is identifying the problem. And so with tapping, the more specific you can be, the better. So, if it is, I'm feeling worried or I'm scared, then it's like you want to get as specific as possible. So, what am I scared of? What's the worst case scenario? This is all floating around in your head anyway. So it's just acknowledging that. And then we follow that with a self-acceptance statement. So we use I deeply and completely accept myself. Sometimes that's really hard to say. So you can use I accept myself anyway. And what this is doing is it's acknowledging the feeling, and then it's also letting your mind and body know that even though I feel this way, I accept myself. And then the physical tapping on acupressure points is sending that calming signal to your amygdala, which is that stress center. And so when I'm introducing people to tapping for the first time, the comment that I often get is, it's really negative. And it is, tapping works in the negative. And it's very different to what we're told, think positive affirmations, all that. And I do have a lot of time for that, but there's something so powerful in acknowledging the negative, which is how you're really feeling. And like going back to the athletes just can't cope with it. What do you mean you want me to say that I'm scared of getting injured again? I can't say that. And it's like, yeah, but that's how you feel, right? And then when you acknowledge it, you're tapping on the points and you're saying, I'm scared of this, but I accept myself anyway. Your body, your unconscious mind goes, oh, okay, good. and then you watch that release happen.
It's interesting how people label things positive or negative, but really both serve us. So even though something might be a negative, for example, I don't want to get injured again, really that's a protection mechanism. So it's a positive thing to have that negative thought.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that, that trait of toxic positivity. It's people are trying to be positive and over positive the negative, when really sometimes those negative thoughts, they are serving us in one way or another.
Yeah. So with EFT, we call that secondary gains. And absolutely that we actually tap on the side of the head to each setup, and that's the secondary gain point, because you're right, every time most situations there's an unconscious upside. The upside to the injury might be then I get a rest because I'm tired. Or then, and like this is all unconscious. So logically it's like, no, I want to play, but unconsciously that there can be these secondary gains that sit there with weight loss, and emotional eating. There are so many. For me, it was like, food is how I relax. That's my upside. I don't want to eat emotionally, but it's my downtime. It's my me time. It's the way I relax. So, these are the things that come up, and then we need to acknowledge them, because they're holding everything in place. And you can try really, really hard and feel like really, you're not getting anywhere if that secondary gain's like running the show.
Yeah, secondary gain is so interesting, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how could then our listeners use this in their everyday life? And is it something that you can use to change state or pull yourself out of a non-ideal mood or something? Is there a practical way that we can utilize this in everyday life?
Yeah. So one of the biggest feelings that I have as a mum and as a business owner and everything else that's going on is overwhelm. So often my own tapping is in overwhelm. So that's something that we can do together now, and I can show you exactly how you can do it, and your listeners can tap along with us and experience it. So we can do that together if you like.
Let's do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So what I'll do, I'll take you through the points and I'll explain them best I can. But I'll also send you a diagram which you can link into the show notes or however you want to do it. So then people can actually see the points.
Just quickly before we start, guys, if you're driving your car, not the best time to do it, just listen.
Yeah, totally. And I will say a couple things about it. So if you are going to tap along with us, there's a couple things. Like, firstly, take your health into consideration and your well-being. If you are, like you said, driving or don't have a quiet, safe space, I wouldn't be tapping along with us, or, you know, do it at a later time. Probably best to have a water bottle nearby. What you may notice is tapping is very powerful. So as you start tapping, there might be a lot of emotions come up. The best thing that you can do is keep tapping along with us. So don't stop, and do whatever you can to orient yourself into the present, whether that's, keeping your eyes open, maybe looking at the wall or the window in front of you, and just keep tapping along. It can, it can feel overwhelming, but just what you may notice is as you keep tapping through, that overwhelm kind of goes down pretty quickly. So maybe what I'll do first is I'll show you through the points, and then we can do a setup together around overwhelm.
Sounds good.
So the first point is under the pinky. So it's in that meaty part there under the pinky, and you're just tapping gently with a couple fingers, and you can use either hand, so it doesn't matter. And so this is the first point, and this is where we set up what we're going to work on, like I said before, really specific, and we're using that acceptance statement. So we'll just go through the points, and then we'll do a setup together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then the next point's top of the head. So it's just right in the middle of the top of your head there, and tapping again gently. And the next point's the eyebrows. So there's 2 points, basically where the hair starts on your eyebrows. So you can tap with both hands, or you can just use one hand, one side, whatever's easier for you. And then you can basically follow your eyebrow all the way around, and the next point's the side of the eye. So it's not back where the temple is, it's really there on the side of the eye. And then under the eyes, the next one. Good, under the nose. And you'll notice it's quite quick. Under the mouth. Now the collarbone point. So if you find that U-shaped bone in the middle, and it's about 1 inch down and 1 inch out. So you've got 2 points on either side there. And again, you can tap on both sides, or you can just choose one side. And what you may notice with these points, a lot of them we already intuitively use to calm ourselves down. You might put your hand on your temple, or put your hand on your eyebrow. Yeah, on your chest is a big one. So we're already intuitively using these points. Tapping is using them in a really intentional way. And then the last point's under the arm. So it's about a fist width under your armpit on the bra. For us girls, it's basically where your bra is there, under your arm. Good, that's it. And then we just stop and take a breath.
And is it a gentle pressure?
Yeah, gentle pressure. I'm a bit, you'll notice I'm like a bit fast with my tapping and a bit aggressive, but gentle pressure. It doesn't have to be anything too aggressive. Sometimes I find if I'm really anxious, then I'm tapping a bit faster, and then as I start to calm down, the tapping slows down. So that's all the points. So now what we'll do, and your listeners can do it too, is we're going to go through the points again, and this time you'll be repeating after me. So I'll be using those, I'll be putting together those statements. So before we start though, what I want you to think about is something that makes you feel overwhelmed. You may feel it right now. It may be something in the future. Like for me, with the seed cycle, I have to go and talk to different health food centers. And that just makes, like, as soon as I think about that, the overwhelm's like a 10 out of 10. So something nice and specific. It might just be thinking about your to-do list, right? Makes you feel overwhelmed. And so think about that specific thing that makes you feel overwhelmed. I want you to give it a rating out of 10. So 0, no intensity at all, 10, the worst it could possibly be. And just note that in your mind, that rating out of 10. Good, got it. Okay. And then the last thing I want you to do before we start tapping is notice if you feel that overwhelm anywhere in your body. So you may feel it in your chest might feel heavy, or you may feel it in your arms or your legs, or you may not feel it anywhere in your body at all. That's fine. But just notice if there's anywhere in your body that you can really feel that overwhelm.
I feel it a little bit in my tummy and chest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So as we're doing that, just keep noticing that sensation in your body. Good. All right, let's get started. So side of the hand, and you can both repeat after me. Even though I get overwhelmed, I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Even though I feel this overwhelm,
and I
feel it in my body now, I deeply and completely accept myself. Good. Keep tapping on the side of the hand, and we're going to say it one more time. Even though I feel overwhelmed, I deeply and completely accept myself. Good. Okay, we're going to move to the top of the head, and now we're just going to use a reminder phrase. So we're going to use I feel overwhelmed. Move to the eyebrow. This overwhelm. Side of the eye. I feel it in my body. Under the eye. I'm just noticing it. Under the nose. I feel overwhelmed. Under the mouth. There's so much to do. Collarbone. There's so much going on. Under the arm. And I feel this overwhelm. Good. All right, let's stop and take a breath. And once you've done that, I want you to check back in to that rating out of 10. So again, noticing your body, think about that specific thing that really overwhelmed you that we started with, and just notice, has that rating gone up, down, stayed the same? Whatever it is, it's completely fine. It's just a way of testing to see the progress. Good. Okay, so we're going to go through again. What you may have noticed is that it may have reduced, which is really good. It may have changed. So it may have gone from overwhelmed to scared, or some frustration might come up. Whatever comes up is fine. We want to acknowledge that too. So we'll keep focusing on the overwhelm. But if you're tapping along with us and another emotions come up, you can just acknowledge that too as we're going through. All right, so let's go again. Side of the hand. Even though I still might feel overwhelmed, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still might feel this overwhelm in my body, there's so much to do. So much going on. I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I still might feel overwhelmed, I deeply and completely accept myself. Top of the head. Acknowledging this remaining overwhelm. Eyebrow. I don't have to do anything with it. Side of the eye. I'm just acknowledging it. Onto the eye. This remaining overwhelm. Into the nose. I'm noticing if I still feel it in my body. Into the mouth. I'm noticing everything I can about it. Collarbone. This remaining overwhelm. Under the arm. This remaining overwhelm. Good. All right, stop and take a breath again. And I just want you to check in again on that scale from 1 to 10. Has that number gone up, down, stayed the same?
Feels like it's gone down.
Down.
What did you say, Al?
I just said I think it's gone down.
Yeah.
Good. And the process basically is to keep going through those points. You really want to get it to a 2 or below. When I'm doing my own tapping, I'm a bit lazy. Like once I've taken the edge off, I'm like, oh, that's better. But if you can keep, often it just takes that one more round to really get it down as low as you can. I did the words that I was using. When you're doing it yourself, you don't need to use all that. I'm using those words to tune us in. When you're tapping in the moment, if you're feeling overwhelmed, often for me it's a rant as I'm tapping through the points, or I don't need to say anything at all because I'm already tuned in. The overwhelm's a 10. I'm overwhelmed. And then as you feel that intensity going down, you start to have that relief. And then, often like I know I'm done when I'm kind of bored of it and thinking of something else, and I can just get on with my day. Yeah.
Do you think there's value in saying it out loud compared to saying it in your head, or is it recommended it's out loud?
I know for myself, if I'm tuned in, it doesn't matter. I often probably don't say it out loud if I'm tapping myself. But yeah, everyone's different. The basic EFT, which is like clinical EFT, that's the one that's got all the science behind it, is what we did. So out loud, side of the hand, even though insert problem, I deeply and completely accept myself 3 times on the side of the hand, and then tapping through the points, a reminder phrase, overwhelmed, stopping, taking a deep breath, checking in. So I always, where I start with clients is teaching them basic EFT, which is that formula. And then it's, as you get familiar with it, it's finding what works for you. A lot of the times for me, if I am in public or if I'm not able to really sit and do that basic EFT, it's just tapping on one of the points. And that automatically starts to calm me down. So it's,
I'm sure I'm not sure. There may be some validity to, hey, like verbalizing out loud and saying it out loud be quite powerful compared to, like, I think a lot of the time we obviously have our own thoughts in our mind, and I guess verbalizing it I'm sure I'd be interested to know what they say, but it might actually have some power to it. Well.
And getting specific, like, just that word specific is it's kind of drilled into us with EFT, but it's like really trying to get specific on what is causing that overwhelm, what's making me feel the most overwhelmed, because or what's making me feel the most stressed, and then using the words around that, and then using that reminder phrase to keep you focused on that. That's where we get that reduction in that score.
And I guess as well, for some people, it would be just acknowledging the way they're feeling instead of repressing it, right? Because I think a lot of people do repress emotions because maybe that's what they've learned from their parents, or they weren't given time and space to feel their emotions. I know that's definitely true for me. So having that space to verbalize it and give it, like, acknowledge it and give it space, I guess.
And that's all an emotion wants. It wants to be heard. And once we do that, it's like, okay, good, it it heard me, I can go away now. Whereas often we try to push it down. And I know there'll be times where, like, I'll might feel angry, and I'm like, I know I need to do tapping, and then it takes me 2 days to get myself there, and then I verbalize and acknowledge that anger or whatever's come up, and then I'm like, oh, I should have done this 2 days ago. So we push it away, we try to pretend it's not there, but acknowledging it's so powerful.
And it can be so quick, right? Like also busy, but it's just another thing to push aside or just do it quickly.
And I think what I know for myself, and what I've seen with clients with tapping, is you kind of, they actually call it the apex effect, where you forget you even had the problem. So often I might I don't know, be in a bad mood. And then if I do the tapping when I'm in that bad mood, it goes away and then I'm fine. But, and then I don't really realize, but if I hadn't done that tapping, that would have carried on. And then I would have been cranky with the kids, cranky with my partner, and that would have had that flow on effect. Whereas I've done the tapping and I've completely forgotten about the bad mood. I've changed my state and, carried on. So yeah, it's often like when you look back and go, oh, that would have usually really impacted me. But, I did that tapping and maybe it helped. I don't know. Anyway, great.
When you're doing that, like when you're talking specifically about your emotional or your mood, are you tapping for like anxiety, or are you tapping to change your emotional state specifically?
I'm tapping just to acknowledge it. So if I'm in a bad mood, I'll be like, even though tapping on the side of the hand, I'm in a bad mood, and like I'll probably swear like I'm pissed off or whatever it is, like really just like letting that out. Everyone's annoying, whatever it is, I accept myself anyway. Even though I'm in a bad mood, I accept myself anyway. And then tapping through the points, I'm in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood, and just letting that come out. And then what usually happens is you have like a sigh or a yawn, some sort of release, and that's a sign that you've coming. Yeah, that's a sign that you're clearing. So often clients will like apologize. They're like, I'm sorry, I'm yawning so much. I don't know why. I'm not even tired. And it's like, no, this is really good. That's a sign that you're clearing. And often after a yawn or after a big sigh, the intensity is reduced. So yeah, I'm always, and I teach this to my clients, I'm always tapping to acknowledge, because often if we're tapping to try to clear something, and then when we acknowledge it, it clears. But if we're tapping just to try to get rid of it, it doesn't work.
Okay, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how like it is a technique. It's a technique or a tool in your toolbox as a practitioner or as a coach or and the name, hey, so emotional freedom technique essentially is helping people to like stop being like boxed in by their emotions or had by their emotions or out of control, letting the emotions control them. So it's almost freeing yourself from that emotion if you choose to do so.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah it is. I always, like, when I first started as a practitioner, I'm like, oh, EFT is just the worst, because people will be like, what? But yeah, the emotional freedom techniques, it's
Loved it. That was my first time. So thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Mel.
Oh, you're welcome.
So could you just fill our listeners in around your, I guess, offerings at Functional Health Canberra, but also the new online course you've just launched?
Yeah, so Functional Health Canberra, I see one-on-one clients. I have an office in Canberra at Nichols, but I do a lot of Zoom sessions. I work with people all over. And I have just relaunched. So I've had a program called Real Food Freedom for about 3 years, and we've just relaunched it. So all new branding, and I've added some new content in there. And so that's really focused on teaching you how to do tapping yourself. There's a functional nutrition component in it as well. And it's really, I've pulled the best bits of what I've learned and what works with my clients one-on-one. So often people who may not be able to afford to work with me one-on-one, or I have quite a long wait list at the moment. So, if I can't get people in as quickly as I like, the Real Food Freedom's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
How
are you feeling after the tapping?
Oh, I'm personally feeling relaxed.
Good.
I would like to definitely explore more of that for sure.
Actually, I will mention, I'll give you some resources as well. So the Tapping Solution, they have an app and it's really cool. So it has like 9-10 minute guided tapping meditations in it. So I often use that if I'm in that place where I'm feeling a bit anxious, sitting and just meditating feels like it's all too hard. The tapping meditations are just so good. There's quite a few free ones on the app, and then you can pay to access all of them. And then if you're interested in learning more about like the science behind tapping. Dr. Peter Stapleton, she's a psychologist at Bond University. You can go to her website, which is evidence-based EFT, I think. And yeah, there's just so much information there. She runs a program as well called Tapping in the Classroom. And yeah, they're doing great things and teaching teachers and kids how to use it as well. So they're great resources if you want to learn more.
Yeah, I also have the Aura. I don't know if you've heard of the Aura app, but it has meditations, and I just checked, it's also got tapping.
Oh, that's cool.
It also has breath work. So it has like a whole load of, and like you can obviously specify, you know, exactly what kind of meditation you're looking for and what mood or what length or what feelings. So I've been enjoying that app in case anyone else wants to know of any other kind of meditation type apps.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and how do you spell that? Is it A or O?
It's AURA. Yeah, really cool.
Cool, that's cool. They got tapping.
As opposed to the Aura Ring, which is OURA. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, and it's got like a little rainbow circle as the icon. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Al. That's awesome.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today for that episode. We really hope that you have enjoyed that, and especially our live tapping session as well, which was awesome. Thank you so much, Mel. And as always, guys, if you did enjoy this, make sure you take a screenshot, share it with your friends so we can grow our Body and Beyond community. We'll chat to you guys later.
See you guys. Thanks, Mel.
See ya.
The Body and Beyond podcast is for information purposes only. This podcast does not constitute advice or services, and the statements and views of the hosts and guests are not medical advice. The information provided should not be used for treatment or diagnosis purposes. Please discuss any information from this podcast with your healthcare professional before making any changes to your lifestyle.